Hello and welcome to this Mastering the Machine Automation Academy webinar for the 9th of February 2024. The topic today was Automation Direct, the CODESYS controller in particular, and object-oriented programming. And we did have a bit of a conversation with Bruce Lauzon, who is one of the original developers of the CODESYS platform for Automation Direct. So it was a good webinar, and thanks for showing up. Okay, I got a yep. That's good. I have a big problem this morning, folks, and I'm going to try to work my way through it. But the computer that I planned on doing this webinar from needs a Zoom update, and I can't update it. I need administrative privileges from Automation NTH, and I don't have those. I'm at my office and I'm using my own computer right now, but I had fully intended, and somebody says they can't hear, might just be you. Yes. And my audio is not going to be very good because all my stuff is on the other computer. So what I may do is try to use this computer, but show the other computer from the remote camera. That's the only thing I can really think of doing. I can't remote desktop because I don't know how to connect to the other computer. So that's a pretty big problem. But I had fully intended, and I have everything up on the other computer. It's got 3 screens and kind of ready to go, but I don't have a way to connect to Zoom on it. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. This is Mastering the Machine Automation Academy webinar number 70. I've been doing these for about 3 years. This one's for the 9th of February 2024. The topic today is Automation Direct, CODESYS, and in particular, object-oriented programming. Like I said, I have a lot of the material on my other computer, and I'm going to try to kind of migrate over there somehow seamlessly doing this, but we'll get this basic stuff out of the way here first. What is the Automation Academy? It is a membership site that I created about 3 years ago. Lots of videos, things like that. Community with interest groups, lots of downloadable documents, etc. If you're interested in any of that, go to these websites and you can get a link for that. One of the things that I did is had a Mastering the Machine workshop a couple weeks ago, and we did a lot of these topics that you see here, mostly Allen Bradley and Siemens. We touched on Beckhoff, a little bit of Cognex, and of course we got into a little bit of Automation Direct. I had bought some equipment, but that's kind of where today comes in. I'm going to try to do these other months also, but I did it in January, and I don't have another one planned until at least April. And the idea was this stuff, right? That there's a lot of other things to learn besides PLC programming, and that was kind of my focus. A little bit about Automation Direct and how I kind of tied into this CODESYS stuff. Back in 2014, I visited Automation Direct, met the owner, the guy who started it, Tim Homan. That's a picture of me and him back in 2014. And I kind of wanted to get back into Automation Direct equipment. I had a click, and I had an intern here that was working with it, and I wanted to get some of the more modern PLC stuff. So I went and bought a Productivity 2000, and I had another customer that is building a little system with that. So I had started on that particular system, went there to meet with a few people on January 23rd of this year. And in the meeting, I asked them, are you ever intending on putting out a CODESYS-based PLC? And they kind of looked at each other and they said, actually, tomorrow we are releasing one. So the 24th of January is when they released their Productivity 2000 CODESYS controller. There is a picture of it on a table there, and there is a picture of it built into my trainer, which I'm not sure if you can see this, but the trainer is over there with the other computer ready to go. And that's the thing that I'm going to try to go over there and connect with. But I'm going to have to use this computer to do it, which is going to be tough. So in any case, that's what all this is about. Couple things that I wanted to mention, and then I'm going to try to migrate away from this PowerPoint. This was a post from Paul DeJong, and Paul DeJong teaches PLC classes around the country like I do for a company called Automation Training in Canada. And he teaches Allen Bradley and Siemens like I do. And sometimes people will ask for him to convert equipment from, for instance, Allen Bradley into CODESYS. And he's doing a big job on that right now. And he actually posted on LinkedIn, how can I make CODESYS look like RS Logix 5000, which is a very interesting thing to do. I don't know why you would necessarily like to do that, but some people are familiar with a certain programming environment. So he put this up there. I thought that was pretty cool. And then another slide that I had kind of ready here about CODESYS is this book, which I have this book. Once again, let's see if you can kind of see that. It's actually open down here. It was ready for me to hook up and talk about. And then, like I said, I got sidetracked on this computer. This is the book of CODESYS. It has a lot of really good information from Gary Pratt. Gary Pratt is, he ran the North American CODESYS, and he taught CODESYS around the country for about, I don't know, 10 or more years. I think using the Bedrock automation platform. So I'm going to talk a little more about what CODESYS is, just so everybody knows that. And then I'm going to try to migrate over to the other computer so that I can show folks kind of what I'm doing over there. The jury's out as to whether it's going to work or not. Like I said, I'm going to have to use this computer to look at the screen on the other computer. So that's going to be kind of funny looking. CODESYS is a platform that it's a runtime platform that manufacturers can put on their PLCs. There are over 500 manufacturers right now that have CODESYS type equipment, PLCs or computers, things like that. And then there are over 1,000 platforms from those 500 manufacturers. So some of the manufacturers include Schneider and Wago. Beckhoff is sort of based on CODESYS. It was based on CODESYS, and TwinCat 2 was CODESYS, but then they took their TwinCat platform, migrated to TwinCat 3, and put it on Visual Studio, which is not CODESYS. That is, pretty much Microsoft Visual Studio. You can use plugins from all kinds of things, Python and C# and whatever, to do that, which you can't do on a typical PLC. But in any case, that's kind of an overview of what CODESYS is, and it is a IEC 61131 compliant platform. There were 5 languages in IEC 61131. They were ladder logic, structured text, sequential function charts, function block diagrams, and instruction list. And then they did something called deprecating instruction lists, so they no longer really support it. They don't recommend that you use it in future installations, but then they added a language called continuous function chart. And I have an application over here on the other computer, like I said, that is showing a little of what continuous function chart looks like. At this point, I think I'm going to try to switch over and use this computer and the other computer at the same time. We'll see how that works here. I don't know how this is going to work, but here we go. In any case, this is the CODESYS controller that I built into a trainer. See if we can get a little closer here. That is what the controller itself looks like, Productivity CODESYS. Hopefully folks can see that. Looks a little different than the regular Productivity, which looks like this. So that's the regular Productivity 2000 controller that I got. It is the demo system. It's got little switches on it. And then this is the CODESYS controller. So they look very similar. They use the same IO cards and that sort of thing. I also put in here a Click Plus. And one of the reasons that I did this is because the Click Plus and the CODESYS controller both have MQTT. And one of the things I'm very interested in doing is using MQTT to log information to the cloud, and then from the cloud, transfer information down to another controller using probably something like AWS, which is the Amazon Web Services, which I have an account. And so that's kind of the plan. The other thing that's in this trainer that's kind of interesting is a safety circuit. And there was a whole lot of wiring associated with the safety circuit. But what it does is basically it just has an e-stop, right? You can pull the e-stop out, you can power it up, the relays come on, etc. Now, the reason this kind of matters is because in my simulation, which let's see how well we can see the computer here. Okay, so this is the other computer, and I don't know how well I can hold this with my one hand here, but I'm going to try to do this. Oh boy, this is awkward. Mouse is boggling around. All right, so this was the webinar screen. I'm going to move that and go to the programming screens. Not sure how well everybody can see that. What I've got here is I have, let's see, VLC media player update. No, I do not want to download it. This is the CODESYS environment. So I'm already running, I'm connected up, and I have a very, very simple application running here, which is basically this right here. I have a main program. The main program then calls the system routine, very similar to what I would have done in Allen Bradley. And so the system routine, if I go to that, looks like this. I did it in ladder logic on purpose because most of the people that take classes from me, that's what they already know. They know ladder logic, and I have books with how to do all this in them. And so typical have the auto push button, go into auto mode, go out of manual mode. This is ladder, pretty simple stuff. Cycle start permissive, a little timer to do your cycle start, and then a cycle stop request so that you can't just simply stop. And then what I do is run a little simple HMI. And this is the little HMI. There's something called visualizations. Visualizations in CODESYS will run on your local computer, or there's a way to even put a web visu, which means download a page like this, like a little cycle start, cycle stop push button, and download it into the controller so that people can access the controller and push the buttons with the mouse on their computer, which is a pretty neat technique to use. So just to kind of show how this works, I can, for instance, go into manual mode, and all that does is turns on this yellow light. And also, if I go over here, you can see the controller. If I go into auto, right, I am using the actual IO here to blink the light here and here. And then I even have a buzzer hooked up if I'm in auto mode and I hold the cycle start button with a cycle start permissive, real loud, and I'm in auto cycle. So this is a really simple application, right, that I usually use as a starting point in a class. So if I'm teaching regular PLC programming, I like to start with this kind of thing. Okay. And then I also did create a little blinker here. I just used 2 timers to create the blinker. You can find all this kind of stuff online. So there's not really a ton of logic in here yet. I just got this controller, and this is kind of where I started with it. And you'll notice up here, there's something called Control Win. Control Win lets you simulate the logic on your local computer. So there is a local sim that you can just push the button and simulate a single routine, or you can log into the actual fake PLC here, and it will run for 2 hours, this control win. So I could take this logic and download it in there, but since I have a real controller, I don't have to worry about that. And so you can see the general idea how this runs. Now, what is my ultimate plan with this? Well, one thing, this is Beckhoff. Beckhoff is very, very similar to CODESYS. It was based on the same thing. And so I have a much more elaborate program here in Beckhoff, right? It has a lot more routines, and I created this. I think I've been working on it for a year or two on and off. But what it has is it has the same visualization type stuff, but you can see here from the local visualizations, I can change screens, and this is the same on the other visuals. I can go to my data screen, see how long I've been running. I can go to a simple sequence control, and I even have a kind of an animation here of a little sequencer. Let's go into, and here what I had to do is create a fake e-stop, right? I didn't have real hardware for this. I actually do, but I'm not connected to it. So hit my power, a fault reset, a little more elaborate than what I had before. And once again, I can do a cycle start here. Just like the other controller. Notice the noise is different, and that's because this actually brings up an application. And I've done other webinars on Beckhoff, so you don't need to necessarily see how all that's done. I wouldn't have been able to do that in the Productivity 2000 because it is not a computer. It is a full PLC, so you have to use real hardware if you want to turn things on and off. But what I plan to do with this CODESYS software is the same thing that I did with the Beckhoff software. Create these routines. They're in various different languages. You know, I've got function block diagram here for time. See how well everybody can see that. You can see it somewhat. I imagine this is kind of blurry and doesn't run in real time, but you get the general idea. Lots of routines. POUs, and we'll talk about object-oriented programming, which is kind of what some of this is. It's a matter of protecting your variables and linking things to each other. I'll show you something that looks a little more object-oriented here in the CODESYS software. If I open this, let's see here. This always stays in the front, so let's see. There is the connection. So if you want to connect to something, you have to click on this scan network, configure your gateway, and connect up here, log in. So once you're logged in, then you're connected via, in my case, USB here. And then you can see things actually running. And you can select things just like you would if you were offline. So here, let's see, I'm going to bring up this control win, which I did this little exercise. It's kind of fun here. See, I think it's not in the main task. Where is it? You'll see logic. No, that's not it. I'm looking for my main routine, which was written in continuous function chart. CFC. PLC logic. I may have to log out to do that. Yeah, it looks like I do. You can see here main refrigeration. This was an exercise. There we go. Actually, it did come up. So this is somewhat object oriented. This is an example of what a little bit of OOP might look like. These different things here are objects. They are linked to, in this case, a global variable, which a lot of people who are proponents of object-oriented programming would say, such as Jacob Sagatowski says, you don't want to use global variables for anything, right? You want to make everything kind of private to the routine that it's in, and then there's other ways to exchange information. So everything becomes an object. And the general idea there would be, and this is not really object-oriented programming. Let me see if I can bring something up that looks a little more like that. That looks a little more object oriented. each one of these routines sort of could be created as an object. Let me bring up a block. These function blocks are objects. So what they have is they have, just like Siemens or Allen Bradley's AOIs or anything, they have inputs associated with them, and then they have outputs, and you can protect the inputs. You can turn them into different OOP things like methods or actions, and then you can expose those methods and actions as needed to other routines or other controllers or whatever you want that can access those. So because of object-oriented programming, you can protect your data inside of these objects and not expose them if you don't want to expose them. I had intended on doing a lot more on the OOP concept, but I don't have access to everything on this computer. It's really hard. I'm actually holding this camera with one hand. So that was an unexpected. Ideally, I'm going to have to either get Zoom installed on this computer by Automation NTH, or I'm going to have to do everything on the other computer. Because I can't use Zoom to do it. But that's a little bit of a look. Not sure everybody can see that. That's structured text, basic if-then type statements. Here is a runtime function block. This is actually a good thing to kind of show. Let me see here, runtime. Index data. I have a data routine. I don't remember where everything is, but my data routine is somewhat object-oriented. Where is it? Maybe here. And again, you can't necessarily see the objects because this isn't a graphical programming language, but each one of these can be treated as objects. So if I see manual runtime, there is a device input, there is a system input that says what mode am I in, there's a set point for it. It's accumulating seconds, minutes, and hours, and the result of that object is this data. And I've kind of done this on Beckhoff before. I'm going to reproduce most of this Beckhoff stuff in my my productivity controller for CODESYS. That's the intent. So everything you see here ultimately will be migrated into CODESYS. So I also experimented with that migration yesterday. And one of the things I found out is that if you export a Beckhoff program, all of the data ends up in XML, but it says like TwinCat XML, right? So it's a TwinCat function block or a TwinCat block of some kind. It does open it as text. It says export as PLC open, but it does not directly import into CODESYS. So Beckhoff and CODESYS are somewhat different. But what you can do is you can copy all of the XML text from one block into another block and then instantiate that block in CODESYS. So there is a way to migrate, but it's not seamless. Unlike what I would say, if you were to migrate a CODESYS project to another platform, I don't think you'd have much of a problem with that because the code would be exactly the same in the same format. So I could basically copy a function block from one platform to a different program in a different platform. One of the things that I read when I was looking at this online is that different CODESYS platforms, some of them have a separate software program. I think like PLC Next would be PLC Engineer. Schneider, I don't know if that's their So Machine platform, I think it is. And so it's it's CODESYS, but it's sort of hidden inside their own software. Automation Direct did not do that. They're direct CODESYS, so you have to install CODESYS from the CODESYS website. Actually have started, let's see here, writing a book on this subject. It looks like this. And what I have done is talked through all of the things that you need to do going online to the CODESYS website to install the software. So this is all the stuff that it takes to do that. And then do this sample project, which, as I mentioned, is in continuous function chart. Looks like that. Let's see if everybody can, yeah, it looks like you can still see that. So that's kind of what the book does. It talks you through that. And then something very particular to the Automation Direct platform that makes it a little bit awkward is you have to add the device, and then there are a lot of things particular to Automation Direct that would not apply if you were doing Schneider or Wago or something like that. It would be different. So even in the book of CODESYS by Gary Pratt, he mentions that he does not cover the at function. So at means I can say use a wildcard, and I can say at whatever the address is, and then link that at. Let me see if I can find that in here. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. If I go down here, and let's go offline real quick. Log out, and you see these ats. Let's see if that shows up. Yeah, it says at %Q asterisk. So what that is that's a wildcard. It's used locally here. This was just an experiment I did yesterday. It's used locally, and then there is a global variable list that you can link, and you can go in there, right click on it, and say add all instance paths. So I think hopefully everybody can read that. I'm going to get to look back at this video and see whether everything's readable or not. But anyway, when you do that, this is the result you get. You get your stack light, stack yellow, stack red, etc. Right? And then this was all added manually. So what you do is you put the wildcard in there, and then you link to the global variable list if you choose to use a global variable list, which again, a lot of people kind of frown on doing that. But anyway, that's a little bit of a look at the code. Once again, there's the link back to the other wildcard %Qs. You would do the same for the inputs. And of course, you would be writing a lot of these routines, as I showed in the backoff, in other languages. That's one of the advantages of CODESYS, is you don't have to buy special licenses. Like if I were in Allen Bradley, I would have to buy a special license for structured text. It does not come with the basic programming software. Same thing for Siemens. I think the professional version has some of the more advanced languages, sequential function chart, things like that, but the base software doesn't include those. So CODESYS includes everything. It includes the 5 current languages: structured text, ladder logic, function block diagrams, sequential function charts, and continuous function charts, not including instruction list. I think there's still ways to use it, but I guess they don't really recommend doing that. There's not really much of a reason to do it. But anyway, that's a little bit of a look at the software and some of the things that I'm working on, and the controller itself, which looks like that. And like I said, I've gotten it just to the point here of, just putting some simple code in here. Called it Automation Direct Project 1. Again, to go online, you just hit this login. It gives you a warning saying certificates are about to expire. Do you want to open the security screen? I'm going to open it actually here just to show you something. I got a little message there that said gateway not configured properly. And I'm not really sure why that is. The gateway works fine. I have a question into Automation Direct, but again, there's not a lot of online information yet for the Automation Direct platform. CODESYS is CODESYS. You'll be programming in that for any platform, but there are going to be a lot of particular things to your platform that you're going to have to load. And once again, that's why I put this book out. There we go. Oh, look at that. It's not even coming to the front. There we go. So I put a lot of things in here, like configuring the cards, setting up USB communications. Let's hit enter there. how to do that. And that's going to differ from platform to platform, right? So this will look different than whatever you do on your particular platform if you don't choose Automation Direct. And I know there's some folks here watching from other countries. Automation Direct does not ship outside of North America. So you'll be able to get your own CODESYS platform, something like Bedrock or Wago or whatever, in whatever country you're in. Automation Direct doesn't ship this stuff. This is about as inexpensive as you can get. I want to say this controller, just the controller part was $529, which is kind of a lot still, but you're paying for the hardware and you're paying for the license that's embedded on the hardware, the runtime. So that's kind of the way that works. And then I have all the particular things that I ran into problems with here on the Automation Direct platform. Get into libraries, which that applies to everything. You'll need different libraries, the standard library, the IO library, things like that. And then a lot of this stuff is from the Automation Direct website, how to use your particular platform. And I'm just doing a lot of this stuff and kind of doing discovery myself right now. This was my original Beckhoff book, which once again, looks like this. And I have a lot more material in here, how to do, more of the structured text, how to link your variables, how to program in, lots of structured text examples, how to create visualizations, how to program in function block diagram, how to program in SFC, which is this, right? And then I have examples and a sample program. And so this is the stuff that I guide students through at Automation NTH. And then a bunch of stuff on troubleshooting because a particular company wanted that. But anyway, that's a look at it. At this point, I think I'm going to open it up for any discussion on object-oriented programming. Does anybody have any questions about object-oriented programming? See if I can even hear anybody. I haven't heard anybody say anything yet. If you want to, somebody put, okay, full documentation with sample programs. Yes, P2, CDS 622. Thank you, Bruce. Yes, that is the link to the full documentation with sample projects. The sample projects aren't much yet. There's not a lot going on there in the Automation Direct website yet. But there will be. I'm sure people will be posting examples and things like that. Let's see, where is my Zoom? How do I get back to share screen? Anybody have any questions, comments, especially on OOP, global variables, things like that? I'm torn as far as exactly how far to go on OOP. As I mentioned, I do a lot of work for a company that uses a lot of Allen Bradley, and Allen Bradley does not lend itself to object-oriented programming. It is mostly in ladder. No questions.
Hey Frank, can you hear me?
I can. Yeah, I can. Somebody.
Hey, my name is Bruce, and it's interesting. When you go to OOP structure, that allows you to, as you know, migrate to other platforms. So certain vendors may be motivated not to support OOP, so you're held captive.
I think you're right. I don't think Automation Direct will be one of those vendors. I think they're going to be pretty open. They usually are. They're great about that. Giving sample programs and things like that. Yep.
Yeah, just to be fully transparent, I was one of the members of the development team for this product. So yeah, our whole objective was to be totally open. The trend is being more non-OEM centric with, for example, Wago had the e-cockpit, and now they're going away from that and making generic CODESYS you download. So yeah, that's was our main design objective, to be totally open as much as possible.
That's awesome. So do you work for Automation Direct then?
We're in partnership with them, but we developed the CODESYS product.
Oh, so are you from Fax Engineering?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Yes. So that was one of the things I was going to mention. Fax is in near Tampa, I believe.
Right.
Yeah, and you guys developed the CODESYS platform, and I think the productivity platform in general, right?
That's that's correct. Well, Automation Direct does the productivity side, that layer. Um, and what we did is to support the market that may want 61131. We went down the CODESYS route, but we wanted to use the existing hardware because it's very well received. So that's why we went with the 622 platform.
Awesome. Yeah, I like it so far, and I had already bought the regular productivity because of a customer that's he's planning on putting a bunch of it in a, I think St. Thomas or somewhere like that. He wanted an
Oh,
inexpensive, yeah, platform, and he's going to go live down there and do some manufacturing. And
neat.
I said, if you're going to do that, go ahead and get something, you know, inexpensive where you don't have to worry about support like Allen Bradley or Siemens or whatever, and I'll
Mhm.
help you. You know, I can help you remotely or whatever. Um,
Yeah,
I
that'd
might
be
have guided him to CODESYS if I had thought about it. I don't think in retrospect, one of the things I would warn people about this should not be your first PLC platform. Learn something else first. If you're Automation Direct user, learn the click, learn the productivity, something, because there's so many other things that you have to worry about with CODESYS or Backoff or any of these. All these libraries, all your object-oriented programming, and how much of that are you going to do? You know, if I were doing an Allen Bradley program, more or less, I've done hundreds and hundreds of them, and they're all similar. If you go to
mhm.
any plant in the United States, at least, you know, everybody has kind of the same formats where the outputs are in one routine and the, you know, and then process control is a little different, but machine control just very, very similar across the United States. And templates for large companies all use that. But when you get
Sure,
into
sure.
object-oriented programming, and it's really
Well,
up
it's
to the
you.
programmer.
It's I'm with you. We've got decades of legacy ladder and those manufacturers. So yeah, it's that's what's established, but things are changing. Here's the other key to the code on this thing. You're talking about the complexity of it. When we started the development, we were looking to benchmark, let's say the Ethernet IP adapter or scanner or whatever, is example projects and collateral online that would help set up the CODESYS. It was really difficult to get a lot of that stuff. So one of the things we did with our support forum website, documentation site, was to do something non-traditional in the Automation Directs, website support. We created this dedicated documentation site that should get you off and running very quickly. And our objective is, because the trend is this, Frank, and you know this, is these languages, people ladder, you can only do so much. And for more complex things, let alone the object-oriented aspects, which is huge. But there's times you want structured text for math, complex math, or sequential state machine for a conveyor belt solution, whatever. So that'll allow that. So hopefully our website or our support doc form or site will help people dive through that. And I message you on LinkedIn saying, hey, if you've got any, because you're doing a deep dive and you've seen a lot of stuff, if you've got any suggestions on the website that we have, that one I just sent in the chat, or any example projects, you're like, for example, the AWS, I don't have that up there right now. We're looking at that, but we ran out of time and had to get something up there. So any suggestions, outside of the forum, if, people will comment on the forum at Automation Direct and we'll see that. But anyway, a lot of
Yeah.
words.
And I think I didn't have a real hard time getting it up and running to some degree. The communications, I understand the idea behind the Ethernet communications and getting on that as quickly as possible, but I never have had a message that said the gateway was configured correctly. I'm connected via the USB port and everything works, but it always pops up and says gateway not configured correctly.
I haven't
I don't find anywhere to do that.
Well, here's the thing. That's an example, man. Post that on the forum. We monitor it multiple times a day, and we'll jump all over it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
But as
for
far
sure.
as ease of use, yeah, it was pretty easy to get to that point. And like I said, in the United States, I generally use a ladder as an introduction. And I say,
Sure.
here's a system routine. I got 3 or 4 books written on the subject, and here's how you program a system routine. Now,
Yep.
when you start getting in, okay, here's your first structured text. When you do your subroutine calls, your program calls, you're going to do that in structured text because it's just type the name of it and a semicolon, with the little brackets. So you're going to be in good shape there. But then when you start getting into the other languages, where do I use which language? That's always a question. And if I were Alan Bradley, you mentioned, for instance, there's only so much you can do with ladder. Well, what Alan Bradley did is they created a bunch of super instructions. Well, if you don't know those super instructions, you're not going to know how to do certain things in ladder, but that was their way to do it because they're not big structured text users. And then they created AOIs, which were basically junk.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the last comment, because I don't want to hijack your webinar, but we just had a request from a customer that traditionally hasn't used productivity, but they've got stock CODESYS, meaning all their function blocks, which are hundreds of hours of development, is their key IP. So their question to us is, hey, can I pull in those function blocks and reuse them on your platform? So that's the other aspect is stock CODESYS, open development. So you can take that. Hey, if Wago's got a better hardware solution, man, go for it. So that's the other thing. But thanks for letting me comment.
Oh, well, yeah, thanks a lot. And again, the object-oriented, I got into a conversation with Paul DeJong. Like I said, he teaches around Alan Bradley and Siemens around the country, but he's a heavy CODESYS user. I don't know what hardware platform he uses. He's in Canada. I don't know if Automation Direct ships to Canada. I had a meeting with them and they said they don't ship overseas because one issue is getting paid. You're up to the individual country. You can't necessarily bring a court case or something if somebody doesn't pay. And so they go through distributors in some other countries, I think maybe South America. But again, whatever your local hardware platform is, I know people use these Phatek or Delta. I don't know if they have CODESYS platforms. Of course, Wago does, Schneider. But personally, I think I'm going to stick to this train because in the US, this is about the best platform I've found for being inexpensive, expandable, straight CODESYS. That's a huge plus to me because you don't have an intermediary platform like Beckhoff. I like TwinCat, I like Beckhoff, but it's really migrated into becoming its own thing now.
It has. You're right. Well, thanks. Yeah, I think we're definitely on the right track, and because we debated whether to do a more OEM that was more, that looked prettier, had our custom, screenshots of the base and all that. But immediately when you do that, you're customized. So when CODESYS releases a software release, we're months behind incorporating that patch.
Yeah, exactly. And Automation Direct has just been very open right from the beginning. Their software's been free the whole time, and hardware has always been reasonably priced. And then they added all the other products that you can buy from there. They're my go-to for, terminal blocks and motor starters and just about anything anymore. So
yeah. Oh, and last comment. I mean, you can tell I'm still jazzed about this because we just launched it. But we had another customer. If you're familiar with CODESYS, is another approach they're doing to licensing with the application-based licensing.
Yeah.
Where basically you purchase, let's say, web vSU for so many variables, so many tags or whatever, and you may have 4 tiers. So what we did is we don't do that. We had the full-blown web vSU we offer with our product. So the customer asked, hey, if I want to upgrade to more tags, what do I got to pay, et cetera? It's like, no. We give you the full-blown deal right out of the chute. So that's the other thing I think is compelling. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's been an awesome platform. I'm glad somebody showed up from Facts. That's very cool. I was hoping Gary Pratt showed up yesterday briefly. He's the guy who wrote this book of CODESYS. And he really does have a lot of good information in here. the jury's out as far as, am I going to go full object-oriented programming, or am I going to do like this guy did and say, for those of you familiar with Alan Bradley, you can turn CODESYS into an Alan Bradley type application by doing this.
But see, that defeats the purpose. You want to be open.
It does, but your maintenance people are the judge of that. And if they're familiar with going online with the machine and quickly finding your, for instance, having the output routine in these folders. And I can do both, right? And so what I think I'm going to be doing is creating an object-oriented solution where people can find the IO quickly, and that it's not this wildcard at stuff, which is great. But there's a place to go, and a lot of that should be on your visualizations anyway. You should have a picture of every card and what everything's doing, and then be able to cross-reference and find your source, or lock the source up so that they don't know where your IO comes from, but it goes in here and, you check it the regular way with your meter.
Have you seen Pratt's OOIP YouTube video?
I haven't seen the video, but I read it here. Yes.
I'll send you that link, but it may give you some more insights.
Yeah, and I'm kind of, unfortunately, I'm pinned to a very Alan Bradley dependent company that does all their development that way. So for me to, yeah, well, I'm not going to change their minds necessarily, but they're already working with Beckhoff, and I've taught some Beckhoff classes there, and they can't do that like Alan Bradley. So they've already talked a lot about object oriented, and we've written our own, whether it's retentive on delay timers or whatever we couldn't find in the library, we just wrote our own, and it was object oriented. You built it into a little box and made it do what it was supposed to do, and.
Okay. Well, again, thanks. I'm sorry to go off so much, but.
Well, I was hoping somebody would pop in and at least talk a little bit about OOP, and one of the discussions I've had also, GVLs. A lot of people say they don't want to use the global variable lists. They want to protect everything, and the jury's out for me on that too. If people are used to finding everything in one place exposed, I may create global variable lists for my system routines, maybe for my HMI stuff, just so people can find it. So that's kind of my intent. But in any case, well, yeah, thanks everybody for showing up. I'm going to go ahead and call it quits here. The next webinar, March the 2nd, 2024. I do these every 2 or 3 weeks. And the topic will be the Automation Academy itself. I should have some new material up there, so I'll just do a quick walkthrough of what's there. Among other things, for those who might wonder what is in the Automation Academy, I've written 4 books, and the contents of the books are in there. So it is an inexpensive way to get a hold of my books. My books are, I think at Amazon, they're more or less $45 to $60, depending on which book you get. And I think I've put a PDF of just about everything on this site. So it's in sections. Maintenance and troubleshooting book, for instance, that's a $65 list book, and I put it in 26 separate PDFs on every subject there, so people can find that there. If you want more information anyway, go to those locations. Check out my YouTube channel. Lots of programming videos and things like that there. And all the old webinars. This was the 70th, so there's 69 other webinars on there. So thanks everybody for showing up, and we'll see you next time.